Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast, No Fear, the podcast that explores the boundaries of courage and fear. I am Pete Pepe, one of the co-founding members of 3777, and I have the great pleasure of having the other two co-founding members with me today. To my left is Mr. Iiro Seppanen, and directly across from me is Mr. Jeb Corliss. So today we're going to be talking about competition. Now, competition is something that is at the core of human nature. It actually is what helps to drive and propel us to do things that we usually deem humanly impossible. So it's definitely a positive thing. But we're going to be focusing a little bit more on sports. And to go a little further, we're breaking it down into competitive sports that are team-oriented. But what we want to also explore is the fact that there definitely seems to be today, in this day and age, a rise in individual achievements in sports that are singular. I'm going to hand it over to Iiro. We're going to get this thing started.
Perfect. So I have to make an announcement. I have retired from base jumping. So he's the only active guy from here.
I'm just learning about this.
But another thing that you probably is not a surprise for you, that I'm quite competitive by my nature. So that probably
I would have never thought that.
and that dates back to childhood. Like, I had a 2.5 years older brother, and he was also competitive. So everything was a race and competition. And the good thing that came out of it, when you're constantly competing and fighting against boys who are older than you, that all these like battles with the kids your age are much easier. And then that helped me to strive in, especially in ice hockey, but I also loved soccer and basketball. And I learned so much for participating in the team sports, because you learn to win together, you build your team and the energy and kind of the winning spirit. But at the same time, more importantly, you learn how to lose, and you learn how to lose as a team. So those were really valuable lessons that I had when I was participating in the team sports. And then later in life, some of those things translated into career and how do you set the team and what's the synergy without those teams. So I've had so much benefits from team sports. But then when I started to get a little bit older, I wanted to kind of challenge more by myself, maybe not hide in the best goalkeeper or like not having to deal with the internal politics of who passes the ball and who hugs the ball. And so it was important that I wanted to do something that I would have the entire pressure, whether I'm successful or not. And then that led into judo and martial arts and jiu-jitsu, and then slowly from there I started to take bigger challenges, and usually take up challenges that used to scare me, like that skydiving and base jumping. Those were the things that I thought like I would never do. Those would only bother crazy people. But then I learned like how to break these like big challenges into smaller pieces, and these things that used to scare the shit out of me, I actually learned how to make a living out of them. I became a professional extreme sports athlete and base jumper. And I faced a lot of prejudice in the sense, like a lot of the people, when I said I'm an athlete, I'm a base jumper, and they said, no, you're no athlete. Like, I mean, you're just doing dangerous activities. Like that's not even a sport. So now I'm going to take a ball and throw it to Jeb. Like, what do you think? And when people ask you like, oh, you call yourself athlete, like is base jumping a sport in your opinion?
You know, it's funny. I was on Real Sports. I've been in the centerfold of Sports Illustrated. I've done a lot of things that considered a sport, but it was funny because when I did the Real Sports, one of the anchor people basically was like, "Isn't this Real Sports?" I mean, they were basically mocking base jumping as a sport, and it's funny because I have people regularly, actually, especially in social media, basically pretend or say that base jumping, wingsuit flying isn't a sport, like that's supposed to somehow diminish it. And I'm always like, let me just be super clear. I don't give two shits if you think it's a sport or not. It's irrelevant to the people who are doing it. Sports are games that people play with each other with made-up rules. Base jumping is life and death. It is so much bigger than any sport can ever be because it is real and the consequences are real. Nothing's made up. This is a very serious thing that you're doing when you're stepping off an object and you can potentially die. So whether it's a sport or not, I personally don't care what people think, but technically, if you look at the textbook definition, like from a dictionary of what a sport is, it's absolutely a sport. It's every bit as much a sport as, high alpine mountaineering or, breath hold freediving. There's competitions, and you and I started a competition called the World Wingsuit League, where, this has been going on for over a decade now, of bringing the 16 greatest wingsuit pilots in the world together, where they compete against each other for speed and for accuracy. So by every definition of what a sport is, of course it's a sport. But I mean, again, it doesn't matter if you think it's a sport or not. I mean, again, sports are games. And even wingsuit flying, once you start making up rules and having people compete based on those rules, now it becomes kind of a game too, right? And that's the point. You're playing with each other. I'm personally not a competitive person. I don't believe in competing. It's just not something I do. I compete only with myself. And that's what I liked about base jumping. Unlike you, I'm not a social person. I didn't like team sports. I didn't enjoy them. I didn't like them as a kid. And as I got older, one of the things I liked about base jumping is that it was singular. It was something I could do on my own with no one else. I could do it literally in the dark, and no one needed to know I was even there. And to me, that's what was special about it, is that's what I liked about it. So I'm not a competitive person. And even in base jumping, I always felt, like you and Frank were the ones who were like, yeah, we should do a competition with base jumping. And I thought it was a bad idea. I'm like, dude, I don't think it's right to compete in an activity that can kill you.
Yeah, you were very adamant about it.
Yeah.
I remember it was in South Africa, so we were just riding the wave after Jeb's fly through. So he became the first person who flew through the enclosed formation, and we made head waves in China. Like, he became a household name, and we were on all the news programs, and everyone were craving like, what next? Like, especially like Red Bull wanted to take Jeb on a national tour and find out like what's the most like exotic object that we could do a live TV spectacle out of. But the local company, like the cave where Jeb flew through, they have a big cable car. I think it's the longest in the world. It takes about 40 minutes to go up. So for them, it was a massive publicity boost that when Jeb flew it, and they came back that like, could we do something every year? Like, it's hard to top what he did. It was like he already did the ultimate thing there. So then we started to toy with the idea. Like, my Frank asked, like, he was my Chinese business partner, like, could we do a race? And then I was like, I definitely didn't see as in a cash cow that there's gonna be a lot of participants, and I could see the danger, and like, I mean, you were definitely reminding the dangers that thing had, and there had been like very low budget or like community based competition where they, especially in Norway, where our friend Paul Fortune started to do like a race, but there was like only for the community and they were flying down. So we were thinking like, okay, well, that's the framework, like how we can put it up to the steroids, making it good TV sport, but at the same time try to keep the participants safe. Mm-hmm. And I would say the first year, I think we didn't concentrate that much on competition. The main idea was what's the track that we can create in the air that brings the jumper down the most effective and safest way that they wouldn't get hurt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because that was my biggest concern, because I'd seen so many people die in the sport, and I'd experienced so much carnage and chaos, and just like with other people and with myself. So I understood how dangerous it was. Right. And I wanted to make sure that if we're going to get involved in this, we need to make sure that we keep these people as safe as we can. And I'm going to have to say that, I now understand that I was wrong, actually. So when they first approached me with this, I was adamantly against it, because I really did think it was just going to kill people, like a lot of people, and that I didn't really see the point in it. Like, I was against it. But now, after a decade of it happening, I've seen, one, we haven't really been killing a lot of people. Like, it actually is, a few, like a blown ACL, broken ankle, but that's about it. I mean, we had one fatality, but that's hard to count because it wasn't during the competition. It was before we were even started. It wasn't even during a practice round. It was just a dude who did everything we told him not to do. So it was kind of like a mental thing. The guy was a little bit mentally unstable and did something that we had adamantly said don't do, and he did it anyways, and he ended up dying. So I don't really count that one. So I'm like, wow, it actually has been pretty safe. Our safety record's been quite good. But beyond that, I saw something else with the competition. I started seeing that people started training worldwide, and they started training specifically for this event to win. And as they started training, the gear manufacturers started actually building wingsuits to actually race against each other in this event. That's cool. So you could see the level of jumper started, like when we started, there were like maybe 20 guys who could do this. Now we have over 100 people who are very qualified and absolutely capable of competing against each other at this level. So that's a big jump in the quality of jumpers. And to see the evolution of the sport and watch these people get so much better and watch the equipment get so much better based on an event was really a remarkable eye-opener for me. So it made me finally understand the importance of competition, because I'm not a competitive person, so it's hard for me to wrap my head around why people would do it. But now I can see it, and I see the benefit of competition, especially amongst people. And even though I'm not competitive, I understand why it's helpful.
Right. Well, let me ask you, just for the audience, can you break down, and we're going to call it a sport because I think it's actually pretty badass.
It absolutely is a sport.
It's totally badass that base jumping and wingsuit flying are a sport.
For sure.
Because,
well, there's competition.
Right,
so 100%. That's a definition.
You've got bullfighting, you've got the rock climb, all the crazy things. And this is just on the extreme side of the sport, and that's totally fine. I mean, I think people can appreciate what you guys do, because again, watching the base jumping footage too, some of that stuff, it's like watching someone at the Olympics do the diving.
Yeah.
Okay, that dude's diving into a pool. Okay, the worst thing's going to happen, he's going to pull a hamstring, I don't know, maybe break a toe. But when you're watching base jumping, you're like, it just takes it up, way up. And to
the consequences
watch that,
are serious.
Again, we talk about adrenaline, but as an audience, you get amped and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, but that's like primal reaction when you see like a base jumper and wingsuit pilot, like you are really drawn into it because very unique. And I think we were tapping in the right time. Just when we did our first World Wingsuit League events, there was a lot of like flirting, like there were music videos that were utilizing wingsuit flying. They were in the movies, Transformers. So there was kind of a lot of hype about these guys who were like flying squirrels, and it was a good timing. And also for us, the base jumping, the early pioneer base jumpers were in the late 70s and 80s. So there was a whole spirit of like pioneering a sport. And in that way, we were kind of a part of the first generation wingsuit pilots. And then it's been amazing to kind of follow the journey, what happened both in the evolution of the suits up until the wingsuit race. But then it was like, because we introduced the competitive element, the wingsuit like suddenly grew a lot bigger, and like everyone started to figure out. So it was amazing, not only to organize races and then figure out like what's the competitive structure and the rules and everything, but also be part of that movement that in some way revolutionized the sport by like forcing everyone to think outside of the box and be as creative as possible.
But that's one thing. That's one thing you touched on that I agree with. For me, one of the amazing things about wingsuit flying and wingsuit proximity flying, base jumping, was you could finally do something new that no one had ever done before. Up to that point, I mean, people had been to the highest mountains, we'd gone to space, we'd been to the bottom of the ocean, we'd gone every continent, we'd done everything. And it seemed like, wow, how can you possibly be part of something that's new, groundbreaking? Because we kind of have that wanderlust gene, that where we want to see that new horizon, cross that new boundary, right? And wingsuits all of a sudden created this world where we're now no longer human. We're actually evolving into a new species, like a new creature. And there was something really cool about this idea of like, how long did it take a squirrel, to evolve the ability to fly from trees, right? It took, hundreds of thousands, millions of years? Well, humans, we're really special. We evolve much more rapidly because we use our minds. So we come up with this idea, we build the suits, and we just start doing it in a matter of decades. And to see the growth and the evolution of human beings being able to fly is absolutely, it was an incredibly exciting period. And then to turn it into a competition was even more exciting.
Right, bringing it mainstream, which is great. But I remember you said something the other on one of the other podcasts where people are, saying you guys are crazy, the base jumpers are crazy, all this bullshit. And it's interesting when they're like, what's the point? When people say to you, what's the point of what you're doing? It's like, idiot. It's like, think about it. You're able to do aerial acrobatic stuff that you cannot do unless you have the skills to do it, unless you practice. And in order to perform and pull it off, you have to survive it.
Yeah.
Because it's not successful when you hit the ground and get flattened. So it's actually amazing that you're showing, again, the capacity of what the human mind and the human physicality can actually accomplish.
Well, think
That's
about
what
like
people
this.
misunderstand. It's just awesome.
Would you ask people like, if you could have any superpower, right? Like X-ray vision, flying. I mean, dude, flying is the number one thing. And that's why a lot of people are like, when are you going to, stop this? It's super dangerous, And I'm like, well, if you could fly, would you ever give that up?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it for a second. Do you go to a bird and say, hey, bird, when are you going to quit this silly flying thing, right?
Yeah.
The bird is like, well, what are you talking about? I can fly. You can't. You know, I live in the 3-dimensional world. You live in the 2. You know, and that there's just something really special about it. And I've had a wonderful life seeing the world from a bird's eye perspective, and I feel very fortunate that I found it at such a young age and that I dedicated so much time to it so I could be where I am now and have had the experiences that I've had.
Yeah, look, I think it's amazing. Can you guys I want to back up a second. Can you please explain to the audience World Wingsuit League? What is the actual competition? Could you just break it down? Like, what are we seeing? Like, so if I show up there, what am I
Well, let's talk a little bit before we go into what it is today, which is a remarkable race, and it's really visual. We can talk a little bit maybe about the evolution, how we got there, where we are now. So the first year, 2012, when we did it, the idea was to take the jumpers down the safest possible route. And it made a huge splash and like headlines all around the world from all the news stations, and even the Time magazine selected as one of the best inventions of the year list. And there was like a Tesla car and rover on Mars and then World Wingsuit League. So we really felt like we tapped into something really unique, and it felt like we had the world in our fingertips, and we can build on this. And at the same time, like proximity flying was advancing in great speed. So a lot of the people were releasing videos, and they thought that the route that we had planned for them in the earlier year was too easy. So it didn't offer challenging. So there were a lot of people who wanted to do more of a slalom. So then that was 2013. And as Jeff mentioned, we had the first, like I think it was a 3rd practice jump that we had the only casualty in the history of the World Wingsuit League. And then we realized like, okay, so that there's maybe it tells about human nature, because we are a dangerous sport. People tune in to see if anything happens. And then we had not in a live TV show, but then there was a risk of something happening. Everyone in China tuned to see that 2013 race. So the numbers were horrible, but what a horrible price to pay. So the guilt that I felt as a president of the organization of dealing with the aftermath, and a person had died, like whether what of the reason or not. So like anything from going to the morgue and dealing with the press and the family. So that was a feeling that I'll never want to go again. So then the next year we took a step back. The sport is not ready. Let's go back to bringing them safely down the mountain, and we introduced head-to-head competing format. And then we slowly started to, year after year, we started to introduce a little bit more athletes. It was only the talent pool was really small. So there were only maybe 2 dozen or 3 dozen of in the beginning that the jumpers who could have participated in our races, but then down the line people see it as an opportunity, and we were paying enormous fees for the size of our sport. So we were paying I think the winner best year got $50,000 or something along those lines. So there was a proper prize money, which later in I wanted to pay for a lot of the athletes. They got the winner got more than I got from the race, but I wanted to bring a legitimacy for the sport, and so we really wanted to aspect there is base jumping is a wild community, and there's all kinds of characters. So we wanted to pick those ones who are professional and who want to compete, and it was unfortunately the talent pool in the beginning was small, but like Jeff said, it could continue to grow and grow. But I think the biggest change happened, we started to lose the viewership because the action happened in the skies. So we were not able to stream them yet. And we were kind of showing POV footages that were from the practice jumps and things. So it was still an interesting experience because people didn't really have the connection to the jumpers, and it was quite repeatedly. So we knew that we had to invent ourselves again. And then that led into 2015, into Jeff's another mega stunt in China, when we had gone through a difficult permitting process to secure permits to shoot over the Great Wall of China. And then the whole project was called Iiro, which Jeff will tell a little bit more about, and how it led into that year's wingsuit race.
So we had the crazy idea. People had been hitting targets up to that point. They'd been setting up targets and hitting them. But really, they felt they were successful if they hit it with any part of their body. So as long as they hit the target, I'm successful. So we thought, how amazing would it be to create a target striking competition like archery, where you basically have a bullseye and then each ring outside is a different point score, right? So you actually literally treat it like you would treat archery, where the human being becomes the arrow. But you can't just hit it with any part of your body. You had to stick a pole on your head, and that pole, where it hit the color, was what score you got. And at the time, we're like, I don't know if we can be this accurate. Like, can we actually even hit a bullseye that's the size of an apple with a pole sticking off your head at 120 miles per hour?
And again, for the audience, just so people who do not know what we're talking about with wingsuit flying and proximity flying, just to give me a quick little explanation, just so they get it, that you're flying down and tracking against the curvature of a structure.
Well, I mean, proximity flying is flying in close proximity to any fixed object. The angle is almost irrelevant. It's just you're jumping off of either a cliff or out of an aircraft, and then you're flying incredibly close to the ground, sometimes as close as 2 to 3 feet.
Right. So when you set the stage, when you're doing the target, when you're doing the human aero stuff, you're basically jumping off a tall fixed object, usually.
Well, at the Great Wall of China, we're jumping out of helicopters, we were setting the target over the top of the Great Wall of China.
Awesome.
And my target was on there were basically these 2 stands. They were like light poles that we used. That for like movies, you'd use them for like standing up lights.
And that's after we had to take down 2 massive towers because they, which was originally built. But that's another long story.
Complicated. We're not going to get into that. So basically, we have these 2 small towers that are about 15 feet tall. The target actually was only about 10 feet off the ground, and about the poles were probably a good 30 feet apart. So you're going in between poles that are about 30 feet apart, and the target is about 10 feet off the ground. So it's quite a narrow area to be striking. So, but I was trying to hit a bullseye the size of a apple, like a large apple, in the center with a pole. And the goal was, if we could do that, like if I could strike this target repeatedly, like if I could get that through, then maybe we would be able to introduce target striking into the World Wingsuit as part of
this is kind of the origins. That's very
well,
cool.
because archery is an ancient sport that everyone understands. And you can do it close to people. Like you can do it where you can have an audience right next to where the person strikes, which is the most exciting point of wingsuit flight, is if you can be within 10 feet or 20 feet of a wingsuit pilot as they fly by, the sound is the sound of a jet fighter flying by you. It's actually, you can't even wrap your head around the sound. It sounds fake because you're like, how is a human body making that sound without an engine? Because, I mean, it literally sounds like an engine. So it's a crazy sound. So, and then when they strike a target, the sound of it, the explosion of them hitting this target at 120 miles an hour is absolutely phenomenal. So the event we did at the Great Wall went off without a hitch. We got the target. I hit bullseyes multiple times during training, and it was successful. And we're like, okay, we're going to introduce it. And then the first year at WWL when we introduced it, it was more of a demonstration. It wasn't really a competition the first time. We just got 6 athletes, had them hit the targets, saw how close they could get to getting bullseyes, just to say, okay, next year, if this goes well, we will continue. And then sure enough, it went really well. And then the next year, we actually brought it in as part of the race. So that we had a speed race, and then we also had an accuracy.
And how close were people to, like, how was that situated where people were able to observe it? I know it was being filmed and everything, but just from the live crowd.
The first year, they weren't able to get close because the way the mountain was set up and where we had to jump from, it was kind of a remote location. But people in the cable car could see it really well because we're flying right by the cable car. But then, like, flash forward a couple years, we got a new location to jump from where we jumped directly over where the cave is, over the staircase, over the people, and you could actually put up to right next to the target. You could have not a lot, maybe a few hundred people right next to where the target is, VIPs, but the staircase and the like amphitheater that you're flying into could hold thousands. I mean, over 10,000 people easily.
Cool.
But it's mainly a TV sport, but it's also like there's a different things you watch it on TV, or you hear that noise that wingsuit approaches, and it's incredible live thing if you're lucky enough to get close and see it.
And me, I'm not, I as I said earlier, I'm not into team sports. Like I don't watch team sports. I've never liked them. I don't care about them. I don't watch sports. It's not a thing for me. But this was the first sport that I watched, the target striking, where I actually got excited. Where I was like, wow, because it was so spectacular. The sound, the feeling. And then this last year, it's funny because it took us 10 years to really figure out how to make this into an exciting sporting event. This was the first year where you're rooting for people. And you actually want this guy to win. And then at the end, there were 3 guys who all needed bullseyes to win. And a bullseye's next to impossible. I mean, they are hard to get, like really hard.
Yeah.
So each one had to get it. And the Chinese, we have a Chinese jumper named Seppanen, who obviously is a local favorite, and he got a bullseye, which put him in first place. And everyone just erupted. I mean, it was crazy to hear just 10,000 people just screaming at the top of their lungs. So he got it. Everyone was super stoked. Then it was JJ, he was a South African jumper. He had to get a bullseye to get ahead of Seppanen. He got a bullseye, and everyone was booing and like pissed off. They're like, no, because they wanted Seppanen to win. And then we had a new jumper, a French jumper named Ambrose. And if he got a bullseye, then JJ would become second place and Seppanen would become third place. So people really didn't want him to get a bullseye, and he got a bullseye. Awesome. And it was, and I mean, and even though people were like pissed off, they still erupted in because it was impossible. Three bullseyes in a row was amazing. So, and that was the first time where I really was like, oh my God, I get it. I understand why watching competition can actually be exciting and fun. And it was the first time that I actually was like, oh my God, that was so cool. And it's interesting. It's just interesting. I thought it was fascinating.
I've been dragging Jeb into like team sports. He's been like a front row seats on Lakers game and the boxing, like NHL game. And yeah, he's sleeping there, nodding his head. And
dude, I was literally at the what was it? The Super Bowl. I was base jumping in for Aerosmith, and when we landed, the tickets were thousands of dollars a piece. And we landed, and they asked us like, "Hey, do you want to stay and watch the game?" And we're like, "No, we're good. We can go right now." And they're like, I didn't even know who the teams were. I'd never even heard of them before. I was like, and they just looked at me like I was on crack. Like, you don't want to watch the game? I'm like, I'm good, thanks. You know.
Where's my car?
And I spent those thousands because by coincidence, like I had gone to the Super Bowl and then, you had to secret. You were not supposed to tell anyone that you're going to be base jumping there.
Yeah.
So then I mentioned, hey, I'm going to the Super Bowl. And then you could, I got to tell you something. I'm going to base jump in there.
But what's funny is no one remembers it because it was the same year that Janet Jackson's titty popped out and freaked everyone out. So all anyone could talk about, we base jumped into the Super Bowl and landed in front of the stage with Aerosmith playing Dream On with 200 cheerleaders, and no one remembers it.
Wow.
Well, I almost forgot that part. But
Wait, back on World Wingsuit with the target. Is this so? I know everyone's got their helmets on, full face, like so. It's like we're talking like unicorn, right?
We call it
like a unicorn mount.
We call it narwhal mount.
But when you're coming in, is it like, oh, here comes the target? I got to dip my head down?
No. How it works is the only way you can be accurate is you actually have to have it so you can see it. So what you do is you actually put it right where your eyes are, and it's almost like on a gun, the 3 points of connection. So it's between your eyes, and then what you do is you make this pole hit the black bullseye. So that's the only way. If you can't see it, then it's luck. Did I hit it or didn't I? You don't know. So it's all about having it in your eyes, and what you're doing is you're trying to put your eyeballs directly through the black bullseye.
Got it.
And I've done it. You know, I obviously did quite a few target strikes, like getting ready for the competition, and it is really hard because you're going so fast, and usually when you get off, you can't really see the bullseye from the distance. You can see that the target's up, but you can't see the actual bullseye. So you can't actually see the bullseye until you're maybe 500 feet away. And then that distance between 500 feet and hitting the target happens very fast. So as you go off, you're kind of watching it, you're lining yourself up on it, you're just making sure that you're in the area. And then as you're coming to the target, you can actually see the pilots are doing this with their heads. They're actually like literally leaning and moving the bullseye because they're just, you're getting your body as close to the center as possible.
Right.
And then you're using your head to get into that bullseye. It's actually...
So then that must be, again, like you said, we're 120 now, or are these
about 120 miles
faster
an hour.
than that now?
Well, you know, it's fascinating because different pilots have different approaches. So some pilots will dive at it with speed, and they're actually doing probably a little more than 120. But then you have guys who are literally going as slow as they possibly can, so they have more time to make the decision. So Seppanen actually was flying at almost a stall. So he was probably doing closer to 80 miles an hour. And it was funny because you could see the different strategies. So his strategy was to come in and then go as slow as possible, which is also my strategy. I want to come in, I want to slow it down as much as you can because that makes, instead of like 1/1000th of a second, you might have 900th of a second, you know? Yeah. So it's going to slow it down enough to where it just makes it, you get a little more time to make that adjustment to get that bullseye.
Okay, I want to break the sport down a little more because this, to me, we talk about so much, the three of us, but I've never, again, you know me, I want to get inside your head.
Yeah.
okay, so you're coming in at 120 or 80 or whatever the number is. It's fast as hell. So again, you're lining up the freaking narwhal thing on the front of your head. And again, now at the same time, because again, I keep thinking like race car driving. People love NASCAR. People love Indy. And it's guys going around in a circle or guys going around in a lap. But I know that the focus is so intense and they've got pedals and they're steering and they've got so much to do. So you are focusing on hitting the bullseye with the narwhal, but at the same time, you got to fly.
Yeah.
So from a physicality standpoint and a mental connection in a sport, give me just a little insight. Like
my guess,
so much must be computing to do the whole thing.
Everyone's driven cars, right? So you know what that's about. You get to a point where in the beginning it's really hard. You have to really think about it. Like you have to really concentrate on, okay, the pedals, and you have to really concentrate on, okay, I'm steering, and you're concentrating on everything when you're learning. But over time, through years of experience and training and thousands of jumps or thousands of hours driving a car, it becomes part of you. The car literally becomes an extension of you. And you're not thinking about pedals or steering. All you're thinking about is that you're looking at your line and you're trying to just follow the line, whatever it is, right? And that's for almost every sport. Surfing is the same way. You're not thinking about, okay, I need to lean forward or I need to lean back. It just automatically starts happening because through training and through preparation, like any sport, right? You get to a place where it becomes an extension of you.
It's just your muscle memory. You fly automatically.
Like I couldn't like, and then you get to the place where it's like, tell me how you walk across the room. Right. And it's like, well, okay, you just automatically, your body does it. You think it and it happens. And that's what happens with wingsuit flying. So at a certain point, after you've done enough training, enough experience, enough years, enough time in the air, you just think it and it happens. Yeah. So as you're looking at the target, you're just thinking about, okay, it's called object fixation. So you basically look at the bullseye, or at the beginning, you're looking at the target. And then all of a sudden the bullseye starts becoming clear, and then all you're doing is focusing in on that bullseye and there's nothing else. And that's how I actually hit at Table Mountain. So when I impacted Table Mountain, I was object fixated on the balloon. So when the balloon got too low, I didn't even see what was around it. I was just, and in order to hit the balloon, I had to hit the ledge. So that object fixation is what made me impact.
That's commitment.
That's why we stopped using balloons, because you don't want something that blows in the wind. Right. And that was a lesson. So we used fishing line to make sure it stays in a safe position.
Right.
Yeah, you paid hardly for that. For that lesson.
But it's just interesting, again, for the audience, and we're talking about extreme individual sports. It's just cool to know. It's like not just like, oh, I'm going to slap on the squirrel suit. I'm going to pop up. Yeah, I'll do a few skydives. I'll jump out of a plane. I'm going to go to the World Wingsuit League next year.
Yeah, but
it's like you guys are putting in hours and months and years. It's like, this is serious.
Yeah,
this is like real practice. Like this is like, that's what I think is so cool about the sport.
It is like, it's any sport, it's any like dangerous sport, you have to like gain it, and it becomes your second nature. And then if you start making money of it, like the amounts of like 10,000 hours and 10,000 days, like, I mean, you got to put so much work in it to become good at something. And I wanted to a little bit take back to the topic that we talked earlier, because now we've been talking a lot about specific in the like sport of wingsuit flying and the technical aspects, but also I want to broaden the idea a little bit about the statistics, like the decline of team sports, and then this popularity of these individual sports. So what do you guys think, like what's the reason for that? Is it like symptoms from our society these days that we're not communicating with each other and we're spending on the devices, and then that somehow translates into the sports and activities? What do you do? Or do you think that there's a cause and reaction type
That's a great point. I'm a proponent of this whole, you either lose or you win. And I know nowadays maybe a lot of it is starting to stem from the fact that everybody's a winner. Now, granted, I do not have kids. I know you do, and they're not into sports yet, or then maybe they're getting into. But again, it seems to be like when we grew up and we played competitive sports, and if football, we'll take the example. It's like we learned how to lose, but we learned how to win. So there was that drive as a team, as a unit, to go, we want to win, we want to be the best, and it was like a collective group. And it seems like nowadays there's like a detachment from winning and losing. It's like everybody gets a trophy. I know I'm hearing. So maybe it's that type of thing where people are starting to recognize, at least in an individual sport, it's like you say, Jeb, it's you versus you. And you have to consistently outdo yourself. And I think maybe it's a specific person too that constantly wants to challenge themselves and go, again, I want to be the best I can be. So I will push myself. I will eat correctly. I won't eat any sugar. You go to the extremes. And I think it's a neat thing when you can show or prove to yourself that you can push yourself beyond what you believed possible. And I know, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
When it
no,
was a team, when it was a team, we all had thought the same. We're all Rambo, all this shit. We all believed the same thing. And I think there's so many distractions. There's so much happening now. People, that team orientation, of course, it's still football. There's a lot of money. It's so people are driven, I know, by the love of the sport, but there's a lot of money in some of these team sports. But the individual sports, I think there's just a greater worth of self-being in it.
Well, I mean, you can watch the rise of MMA, right? Like UFC and stuff, and you see how popular it's become, and it's interesting because, for me, again, it's hard for me to really chime in on this too much because I'm not I wasn't into sports ever, but the ones that I've always been kind of interested in, the ones that kind of have piqued my interest are ones where there's real consequences, and MMA is real consequences. You see two men get into a ring and they're trying to literally knock each other out. And there is something primal about that. There's something interesting about that for me, and I think that's why, wingsuit, proximity flying, base jumping, that's why it's been interesting to me. There's a consequence. You make a mistake, you die. And that is, for me, that the stakes are real. It's not made up. That's the problem that I think I've had with a lot of sports that involve a ball. It's well, okay, so you have two made-up teams with a bunch of made-up rules, and they're transporting a ball from one side of the field to another side of the field. I mean, I don't give a shit, and that maybe, I don't know if that's having an impact, that maybe other people are stopping giving a shit too, but made-up stuff doesn't interest me, right? And most sports are made-up little games with made-up little rules. And for me, I like things that have actual real consequences where, even racing cars, Formula One is sometimes interesting to watch because, hey, you crash that car, it's serious.
And usually I think people watch sports because it's not, you have to have a tradition. Maybe that's the first Sunday night football that you get to with your family together, and you've been doing that for generation, and the jumpers. And that's what I think Dana White does really well with UFC, because he tells the stories of the fighters. So you really if it's two random guys, then there is an amount of violence that you look out of curiosity, but then once you start caring about them and you learn their stories. So I think that was the thing what we tried to do with World Wingsuit League, is not only showing it as a sport, but telling these interesting stories that what motivates people and build them up, because that's the only way. When people are still thinking about their heart and not their mind, and they become fans. So it's interesting. I'm really I'm fascinated about the UFC. Yeah. I've been going out to see them since 15.
You bring up a great part with the UFC. I think it's that same thing again about a singular sport. And of course, it's two people fighting each other. But the point is, it's your training. You have a little camp and you have your group that is behind you. But if you don't put in the effort, dude, you're going to get stomped on. And I think it's neat then that again, I don't know necessarily say it's I'm going to fight you, so I'm going to kill that guy, a specific person. It's no, you're my challenge. Yeah. And it's cool to see people then put in the effort. Because God, right, with all the different techniques and everything you have to know, it's not just the physicality, the brute strength of it. Dude, if you're stupid, you're done.
Well, it's also a consequence if you lose. I mean, it's gonna hurt you. You're gonna get hurt if you lose. So, to me, that's the interesting part. There's a consequence.
It's the same mentality in a lot of the sports that we've done within MMA. We're not hurting something beyond. It's always, I don't like when people thought I'm gonna conquer the nature. I'm gonna fight against nature. I'm gonna conquer a mountain, but it never happens. You prep yourself to be the ultimate version of yourself just to survive. And I think that's the spirit of MMA. Yeah. If you're not in your best shape, you're going to get smashed. You're literally trying to kill each other. And that's as the referee stops at the very last moment. So that's the thing. I think the sports, I think in these times, how to reflect in the broader light, I think people are looking for more real experiences in that sense. And kind of maybe that was a part of the Fight Club. That shows the whole idea about the culture. And when we would get more brutal, and then that's always going to be the reflection of some of the sports and our entertainment, what we consume.
I think now there's so much fake in the world. We're just inundated with it. We're inundated with fake food, fake people, fake social media, fake lives. They show you fake shit. This is my life. It's so perfect. It's so amazing. And they're the most depressed person ever. And you're oh, dude, come on. And I think that what's happening is people are getting really sick and tired of fake shit. And they want to start seeing real, genuine things with people doing real, genuine, and to me, I think that's the stories. Even movies now are lame, because everything's so fake, and I think that's an issue that's happening, and maybe that's having an impact on.
Dude, that's a great point. Just what I still watch some football because it's fun. My fiance and I are watching it. We enjoy it, but it is interesting that it wasn't. Now, granted, it still is violent, for what that sport is. But now, dude, I see so many complaining, refs interfering, even Tom Brady saying, dude, like you can't even touch the quarterback, and he flops down. He's like a LeBron James thing, and you're like, God,
well, it still has a lot of distance to go to Italians in soccer because they keep like rolling for
right. But
around the stadium.
we won't even talk about soccer. We'll stay in the States. But you know what I mean? Where Tom Brady's even going, dude, and they're showing shots of him. He's getting fucked up, dude. And gets right back up. And it's like, back then you knew there was a consequence that you potentially going to catch the ball for a touchdown, but some dude might show up that's 200 pounds and smack the shit out of you, and you're going to be out cold and you're not going to get a touchdown. So it seems like it's gotten softer, and I'm seeing so much stuff online. People are complaining. It's constant, like, they're cheating, refs are cheating, everyone's cheating. So it's almost like, and everyone's starting to, the conspiracies are coming out like, oh, it's rigged. They just want the Kansas City Chiefs to win because of the Swift girl and all this crap is going on. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little weird. And as we're having this discussion, we're talking about like MMA, like you said, you can't fake it.
No.
Unless you're someone taking a dive, but you're
still getting beat up. You can't fake it with black eye and bleeding out of your face.
You can't, and if you don't want to sit there calling timeout because I'm like, that guy's a pussy. Like, why you're done in the UFC? So it is interesting to see these singular sports. I know the bare knuckles stuff.
That's raising up his profile
really
now. It's getting big.
And at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch some of that. I'm seeing clips. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty badass. I'm like, you same thing. You're stepping into the ring and I was like, you're going to get fucked up. Yeah. So it is interesting to see the singular sports are definitely seem to, be on the rise.
You know what sport I'd like to see come back?
Gladiator times.
No, those guys are pussies. I'm talking about the ancient Aztec sport.
Oh, the one that killed people.
Where the losing team was executed. There's a consequence. That reminds me of base jumping. In base jumping, you win if you live, you lose if you die. So it's like, I don't know. There's something special about that.
Well, let's leave this to the happy thoughts. So, let's do one block because we haven't. But besides our website, we have this Jeb's book here that is amazing. So this is available on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
And so if you just Google Jeb's name and the name of the book, and then you can get your copy. It's also digital format, right? Yeah, it's incredible. The things that Jeb has been talking on this podcast, a lot of them, the stories are here, and much, much more. He's lived in such an incredible, inspiring life.
And just for all the haters out there, because we're going to get the AI bullshit, that is a real picture of Jeb, and he truly is jumping off that building suspended there in
Marina Bay Sands in Singapore.
It's not fake, people. Watch the videos, go back.
Yeah, so please visit us at 3777.com. Please subscribe to YouTube and all the possible platforms where you may be watching it. And thank you for your support. One love to you all. And thanks to my partners and colleagues. Thank you. Great show.
Awesome.